Oh, wow. That is so good. So, yes, thank you to Zephyros and Mark and all the other Prince requesters out there. It's so great to be a part of this community. That was Erotic City. That's the intro from the Live at First Avenue version that some of you guys turned me on to. And it's just yet another blistering example of Prince's... You know, he's not just a great improviser and soloist in that blues rock vein, but he retains the funk all through it. And, you know, like I did a few takes of that tonight to try and get one where I pretty much nailed it. But what I feel I can never get close to is the groove that Prince generates when he plays it. Yeah, I've got all the notes right, I'm in the right frets, but I listen back to it and I just go, that's the one thing that he had above everyone else. He could sound like he was peeling off rock licks, but it was all back in this pocket that was so funky. Every little... all that stuff generates such a groove. Anyway, yes, I bought myself a telly. This is a Player Series, Mexican-made telly, straight off the shelf. I haven't done a thing to it yet. It hasn't been set up. All I've done is tuned it up, and that's the first thing I've played on it, and I love it. It's so good. Thanks to Josh at A&P Music here in Terralgan for looking after me with this, and always looking after me. Thanks, guys. So, yeah, I haven't even taken the tags off or the sticker or anything. That's awesome. Oh, it's exciting. Anyway, let's have a quick look at this thing. So, it's in E, and he's just playing over that typical Prince Lindrum groove, and he's improvising over E for most of it, but then it becomes a 12 bar. So the last 12 bars before it goes into the funk section are actually an E 12 bar blues. That very first chord, he's using one finger for his E power chord, but it's holding down an A note as well. So right from the start, there's something that's different from how everyone else plays. Just sounds so cool, just fattens it up that little bit. I'm playing that at the 7th fret. You could play it up at the 12th. Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but I feel like it's at the 7th. Then he's chugging along with that rhythm. There's lots of muted notes and lots of E power chord or E5 chords down there. But he also uses hints of, so he's doing like, I love that. He catches the D and G strings, but he's still holding down that C sharp note. That sounds magic. Very Hendrixy blues lick. Super fast little hammer on and pull off, a trill on the G to A note there. So pretty straight little blues lick. He's catching the D and G notes up at the 15th fret there. Yes, I have a 5-year-old son that painted my nails this evening as well, which I thought almost goes with the butterscotch, or maybe the maple. Then Prince does 3 bars of just a muted E string, but he's pressing down so hard with his right hand to keep it muted that it actually sounds quite sharp. It sounds like he's almost playing an F note. Then he goes into another little blues run. This is like a Dorian scale, and it's a cool little run. But there's also a little harmonic in there, which I couldn't pull off, but... So he catches the G string harmonic right there. Now the next run is my favourite. It's just wacky. It's really out there. What I'm hearing is 3, 4, 1... It's all at the 11th and 12th frets. So the first part I'm playing starts on beat 2, so 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. Then he does the same sort of thing, but in double stops. So it sounds like it's moving diagonally. So I'm starting on the bottom 2 strings, the E and B strings with the 11th fret, G and B strings on the 12th, D and G on the 11th, and then A and D on both. And then he finishes on an E note. I wonder, in fact, I'd put money on it that Prince intended to start that first run on the 11th fret as well. 1. Like that. But it sounds like he caught the 11th fret on the B string instead. He was probably going to do the same lick, first in single notes, then in double stops. But anyway, it's crazy sounding. It's one of those licks you hear and you go, oh, I'm not even going to try and work this one out. But I had to. So that's what's happening there. Then there's a great little funky little lick that I couldn't quite get to sound how I wanted, but Prince plays. So I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing. It's all on the E string. He's picking way back here to get it real twangy, and he does. So I'm just playing 2 muted notes on the E string, then slightly bending the 2nd fret, then another mute, then open E. The next lick is really fun. Almost like a standard kind of blues trick, but ends up just being wacky. 3, 4. So what's going on there is we're sliding into the 4th fret, like a typical blues lick. Then he goes back to the 4th fret on the G string, pulls it off to the open G, open B, 3rd, 2nd, open on the G string. Then hammers onto that A note, then begins the trill on the D to E. So 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next part's one of my favourite because it's just got so much groove to it. This is where it's becoming a 12-bar blues and he's moving to the A chord. So after the trill, so he slides from the B note, the 2nd fret on the A string, to the C sharp on the 4th. Then he's picking the open G string, pulls that off to the open A, then E to C sharp, so 2nd fret on the D string to 4th fret on the A string. Then starts that A boogie riff. Plucks both the E and B open strings, hammers onto the C sharp note out of the A chord. 1, 2. Again, 1, 2. Then he does a similar pattern, still an A. This lick, I can definitely not guarantee this is what happened, but this sounds like it to me. It's a really weird thing to execute. It sounds to me like he again plucks the open E and B strings, then hammers onto the B note of the G string from nowhere, hammer from nowhere, pulls it off, and then plucks the D string. So it ends up like dig-a-da-dun, like a little triplet. Da-da-da-dun. So if you listen really close to it, especially if you slow it down a bit on YouTube, you can hear that it sounds like there's a pull-off in there. So all the right hand is doing is going 1, 2, 3, and, but the left hand's a bit busier. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That follows a little bit of that boogie riff repeated. So it's just that played on the end of beat 4, then playing that one twice. It might even be picked. Then, so 3, 4. Then he goes to an E boogie riff. So after that, so starting on the 4th fret of the A string and going back to the B note, the 2nd fret of the A string with the open E string. And then he picks the open D and G strings before he goes into that great blues run. 3, 4. So that run is pretty much standard blues scale. So we're bending at the 14th fret and pulling off to the 12th fret. Then bending the 15th fret on the B string. Then we do like a reverse, which is a great little effect. Descending the pentatonic scale, but playing each pair of notes in reverse. 12 to 15 on the B, 14 on the G to 12 on the B, 12 to 14 on the G, 14 to 12 on the D to G, 14 to 12 on the D, 14 to 13. So the blues note, the flat 5. So that whole run, 3, 4. Again, 3, 4. Bit of vibrato on that B, holds it for 1 beat. Then he plays a B7 chord. 14th fret on the A string, 13th on the D, 14th on the G. Then he moves that up to a C7, because that's a B7, 1 fret C7, but you can actually hear that he's got the 15th fret on the B string in there as well. So this bar sounds like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So he's just moving that shape back to the A, 12th and 11th frets, but at least on the C chord, I can hear that 9th as well, that 15th fret, the D note. So again, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. This is a great little run too. So it starts on the G note, the 12th fret of the G string, then descends chromatically 14, 13, 12 on the D string, 14th on the A string, then 13, 12 on the D string, which is a bit weird. 1. Then we do the same, the chromatic descent on the A string, 14, 13, 12, 14 on the E string, 12 again on the A string, 12 on the E string, then we go into that final little chromatic ascent. 11th fret on the A string, and I'm holding the 14th fret with my pinky on the D string. 12, 13, 14. Now that's the hardest run for me to play. I just find it really hard to pick across 2 strings at that tempo. I was tempted to play it with hybrid, which is so much easier, but I stuck to it because Prince would have picked each of those notes, and he sounds like he does it with ease. So that one, super slow, 3, 4, 1, and. Let's do it even slower. 3, 4, 1, and. I missed one of those, doesn't matter. And then he goes down to a B7 chord, which I'm confident he's playing like that. 7th fret with the thumb on the E string, 7th on the D string with the first finger, 8th with the second finger on the G string. Then he goes into that funk riff. Now this is so hard to hear. It's I think it's Wendy on that Rickenbacker. It's just got that honky, weird tone to it. It's so good though. It's in the groove. I love bits like this. So it sounds like first finger flattened on the 2nd fret on the A and D strings. So a B note and an E note. then what's happening is we're bringing the second, third, fourth on the A string. Then that last note is the D and G strings open. That's fun. I mean, it's worth the price of admission just for that little riff right there. Oh, I dropped my pick there. All right. Someone in softly for me. Give me some comments, requests. Give me a little bit of support if you can afford to. You know, I've got the tip jar there. I've got my Patreon, which has got more gear on it all the time. People are jumping on and saying, hey, can I have that particular tab in a PDF form or whatever? I'm happy to do all that sort of stuff. Subscribe to the channel. Most of my views are still from people who haven't subscribed, so help me out with that. And I'm going to go and play my telly.